Welcome everyone to the Women's Engineering Society Virtual Annual Student Conference 2021. And as you know, this year's theme is Serving Society, which feels very apt after this year that we've had. We've got an amazing programme of events over this afternoon and tomorrow morning. So before I start going through the agenda, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to our sponsors for the event. So BAE Systems, Ball, CBRE, City Fibre, Dialogue Semiconductor, McLaren Racing, and SME Graduate Employment. So it's lovely, I can just see the numbers creeping up there. It's lovely to see so many undergrads, I'm assuming, some recent grads, some apprentices, whatever stage of your student life you're at. I myself am going to be graduating for the third time from university next week. So I sort of feel like I'm a little bit of a student, even though I'm also working. Because our theme is Serving Society, we'd love for you during the day, if there's something that you love that you've heard, to tweet, and please use the hashtag Serving Society. And if you can tag Wes, that'd be brilliant. It's as Wes1919. So that would be brilliant. We'd love to see some activity on social media there. So I'll just introduce myself. I'm Susan Robson. I am a member of the board at WES. I actually work at National Grid. I'm not an engineer. I always feel like I need to tell people that on these sessions, but I do work with engineers and for engineers. And yeah, so I've got a good understanding of working with engineers. I also do a lot of voluntary work in equity, diversity and inclusion. So I do have that sort of aspect to my CV as well. In a minute, I'm going to introduce Sarah Yates, who is our amazing events organizer. She's going to take us a little bit through the technical workings of this platform. Because I know we've got some things on the main stage, we've got some parallel sessions in breakout rooms, we've got virtual networking lounges, we've got exhibition booths, we've got different chat functions, etc., etc. So Sarah, are you there to just do a little bit of technical housekeeping for people?
I am Susan, thank you, and hello everybody. Wes chose Hubelo as a platform because it offers us quite a lot of functionality, as Susan has mentioned, and we can offer these virtual exhibition areas and networking lounges. We know people love to chat with each other, so we're hoping you're going to make most use of that. Some of you will know this platform fairly well. Other people will be new to it, as we are, I have to say. And I just wanted to highlight a few key sections just to bear in mind to look at. What you can see on the slide here is the top menu of the main area. So this is always the key area to go to if you want to find your way around and how to navigate yourself around the event. Just like a normal live event, you can't be in more than one place at a time. So at the moment we're in the session area, and when something live is happening, it will show up live on that menu as well. And just if you can make sure that you join the session that you want to join, make sure you join promptly, because everything is auto-timed and we finish at the end time that's advertised. So just we want to make sure you get maximum benefit, of course, from the event. So on the next slide, which is coming up. If you look at the right-hand side, you will see in the main area a button that says Happening Now, and that will help you navigate the different sessions during the day. And you can actually visit the exhibitors area at any time to find out more about our sponsors as well. Now, on the next slide is just a little highlight of the lounge. Some of the lounge tables look like this. The networking lounge is only visible and open during the advertised breaks, and Susan will be telling you when that is. We've also put the agenda on the reception page, so all the timings are on there as well. When the lounge is open, the tables look a little bit like this. There's going to be a lot more tables, and some of our sponsors are very kindly joining us as well, and they're going to be having some discussions on their tables. If you join a table with a green outline, it means it's active. One thing that's really, really important to remember is that the meetings last 15 minutes. So if you're having a chat with somebody, just keep an eye on the countdown clock at the bottom of your screen in the lounge. If you do need more time, if you want to meet other people, go back to the lounge tab, rejoin, and just pick another seat. And as I said, Hublo is quite new to us, so please bear with us if there's any technical hitches, but I'm sure we'll all enjoy looking at all the different areas of the site, and we hope you enjoy the event. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I know I'm new to Hublo, but it seems fairly straightforward, she says, famous last words. Before we go into our first panel event, I wanted to introduce the CEO of WES, Elizabeth Donnelly, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the society. Hi, Elizabeth.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button because I'm sharing my screen. So lovely. It's lovely to be here and to see you all at our 2021 student conference. Susan has said she's a member of our board, but what she hasn't said is that she's been the driver behind our brand new strategy, which this is the main points from. So as of 2021, our vision is of an engineering industry that employs the diversity of the society it serves to solve the biggest societal issues of our time. Our mission is to support women in engineering to fulfill their potential and support the engineering industry to be inclusive. And we'll do this by supporting women in engineering at every stage of their career, by supporting businesses and institutions to attract and retain women in engineering, and by shaping the engineering gender diversity debate in industry and with government. Some of the things that you may know that we do, this is International Women in Engineering Day. We started this about 6 years ago as a national day. And as you can see from here, since in 2021, it's become truly global with more than 20,000 individual online conversations and more than 526 million potential reach on Twitter. We truly believe that if we stopped hosting Women in Engineering Day, it would probably carry on of its own accord. But obviously, we're not going to be doing that because it is so successful, and it's a great way to demonstrate the wonderful careers that are open to women in engineering. With respect to students, we have a student or apprenticeship membership, which is perfect for women undergoing training leading up to a qualification in engineering, technology, or related sciences. As far as WES is concerned, students are tomorrow's engineers, and their experience and voice helps to shape our future. We have student engineering groups at different universities, and they play an important role in the promotion and continuation of the Women's Engineering Society's work. And women engineering students have formed affiliated societies at 20 institutions, providing networking and support. And if you don't have a Women in Engineering group at your university, do get in touch with us and we'll help you set one up. From the student groups, we have the WES University Groups Board, known as the UGB, and each affiliated university student group sends a representative to the UGB, which provides valuable feedback to WES on issues relevant to women engineering students. And some of the projects that they've undertaken in the last couple of years include placement finding, frequently asked questions, the Female Engineer of the Year Awards at Loughborough University, and student group-led mentoring. We also offer education partnerships to universities and educational institutions, and currently 22 of them partner with us at £2,000 plus VAT a year, and you can see them all there. And joining WES as an education partner gives you 10 free staff memberships, 5 free job adverts, a free place at a WES event, support for your student group, 15% discount on student conference places, access to Athena Swan support, and free monthly webinars. And this is very valued. Carol Morris from the Open University said, "We really value our educational partnership with WES. It has enabled more academic colleagues to understand the issues around supporting our female engineering students as they receive the WES Journal and newsletter. We've also been able to support a WES student group so that students who are studying at a distance can network with each other. And the partnership events are always relevant and foster a supportive community where views and ideas can be shared." WES membership is the largest community of women engineers in the UK, and it's the oldest in the world. And you can gain support from other professional engineers at all career levels. It's about showcasing opportunities and getting involved in member-led activities. The benefits include the quarterly journal, The Woman Engineer, and the monthly e-newsletter, a members area where you have a careers hub, information on boosting your profile, past event recordings, anecdotes, and shared experiences. And MentorSet is our mentoring program, which you can join as a mentor for free, or for a small fee, you can join as a mentee. Now that's a brief outline of what we offer. And if you want to join WES, if you're not already a member, it's £15 for student or apprentices. And you can join us at www.wes.org.uk/join.
Great. Thanks, Elizabeth. Jumped in there. I assume you were finished. Excellent. I'll just echo what Elizabeth has said, that there's loads of benefits to being part of WES. Hats off to all of you for being involved in this conference. I know when I was a student the first time round, I don't think I had the wherewithal to be so organised and to be so forward-looking. So well done to all of you. And I always extol the virtues of networking. WES is a brilliant way to network. But similarly, I encourage everyone to network. If you want to get in touch via LinkedIn, please do, do that with the people you meet today and through the speakers as well. I'm sure they would be happy to connect. So we're nearly at the beginning of the actual sessions today. I've had a quick look through the agenda and spoken to Sarah, our events manager, and it looks like a fantastic set of sessions that we've got coming up for you. Do get involved, do ask questions. You can use the general chat, as Sarah said, if you're maybe shy about talking on camera, and I think actually that's going to be an easier way to manage the questions. But, pop your questions in there. We'd love to hear from you. So we're going to move into our first session, which is a panel session that will be chaired by Dr. Carol Donaldson, who is Project Manager at Robotics Super Lab at the University of Edinburgh. I have to say that was where I got my first degree, so welcome, Dr. Donaldson. The panel session is called Serving Society, and as you will have seen from Elizabeth's slides, very much aligned to WES's vision and mission. And the panel are going to talk about how can we as engineers use our infinite resource of ingenuity to manage the finite resources of the planet. So as I said, Dr. Donaldson's going to be chairing. We're also very pleased to welcome Professor Dong, who is Professor in Design, Dean of Brunel Design School at the Brunel University in London. Caitlin McCall, engineering doctoral student at Swansea University. Mara Tavasadzwi, I'm so sorry I got your name wrong there, Makoni, who is from the Association of Black Engineers. And before we start the panel session, Mara, if you could please tell everyone how we pronounce your middle name, that would be awesome, thank you. And again, apologies. And then also welcoming Dr. Larissa Suzuki, who's Head of Data and AI Practice at Google Cloud. Dr. Donaldson, I can see you on screen now, so welcome. And if you'd like to kick off the session, I'm actually going to leave you. So this is your session to run. And after this session, everyone, we do have a break from 1 to 1:30, and we'll be back at 1:30 after the break. But I think Elizabeth may come in to do the break at the end, Dr. Donaldson. So lovely to see you. And yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Susan, and thank you for that introduction. So as Susan has said, I'm the Robotics Super Lab Project Manager at the University of Edinburgh, and I would just like to welcome you all to this session. So this is a panel discussion, and we're going to be talking about how we as engineers can use our infinite resource of ingenuity to manage the finite resources of the planet. So this is, of course, a question that is really relevant just now to the current discussions and research surrounding sustainability, and of course with COPs that has just happened in Glasgow. As engineers, I think with the expertise that we have, it is important that we use these skills and knowledge to not only optimize and effectively use the resources that we have on Earth, but we have to do it together without harming the world as well. This is a particularly interesting panel discussion for me because by education, I'm actually a plasma physicist. I'm a roboticist just now, but by education, I'm a plasma physicist. And so that's quite a topic, a big topic in plasma physics, of course, with the design of tokamaks. So I'm very glad to be part of this discussion, and I'm very interested to hear the points of view from the joint expertise that sit within the panel today. So like Susan has already explained, if you could please put any questions you have in the chat. Once our panel have finished discussing, then we'll get to the questions at the end. So if I could please just hand over to Professor Dong to start off our panel discussion, please.
Hello, good morning. It's a pleasure. Good afternoon, actually, or good day, because there might be people from other places in the world attending this conference. Okay, I'm professor in design at Brunel University London. Designers and design engineers can use our heads, our hearts, and our hands to turn the world into a better place. So today we are discussing this, the discussion is around this topic, but firstly I would like to say design can be regarded as an activity which redistributes resources. So resources are always limited. How to redistribute the resource in order to have an optimal effect on people and the planet. That is something we need to discuss, and we need to think as a designer, as a design engineer. Okay, generally, I don't know how many people in the audience are familiar with design, because some people regard design as relevant to engineering. Some would think design is more art. In my view, actually, design is probably in the middle of art and science, and is closely related to engineering. So designers are trained to think and work in certain ways, but our aim is always to improve the lives of people and makes the world a more sustainable place. So I've just mentioned these head, heart, and hands are very important, because that just displays everything we as a designer, what are our thinking processes, and what are our value and ethics, and what are our skills, and how we can improve the society. This all sounds a little bit of abstract, but let me illustrate it with maybe a couple of examples. I can quote a very recent Brunel Design undergraduate student project. I actually have a book in front of me. This is this year's Made in Brunel Above the Fold book. You can see I've bookmarked something. One of our students, as an undergraduate, Louis Duncan, he designed these OLAs. Okay, you can see, you might guess what it is. Okay, it is a air purifier, but it's used all the organic filter materials based on plant, and it purifies air indoors for quite small spaces, and it reduces 90% of the particles, and at the same time generate oxygen. So it's in collaboration with Christian Paragon architecture. So I think this project has a great potential. Currently, it's a small product, but it potentially could be applied to a larger scale into buildings. And it's amazingly, during the COVID-19 lockdown situation, he was making these models. It's all real models, not renderings, in his dormitory and also in our university workshop. So that is the thinking of using different materials so we can produce less harm to human and also the environment. Another good example is redistribution resources is a female engineer who is a product design engineering student, Joanna Powell. You can see here she has produced with another student in her course what is called lava. It's a washing machine utilizing used shower water. So she filters shower water, and they did studies about how much water we use on a daily basis. And by using this washing machine, actually each student can save up to 20% of their daily water usage. So I think these kind of designs, they are all undergraduate projects, but they are really showing the care to the human being and also the planet, which are the two key themes of Sustainable Development Goals. I would summarize those 17 SDGs as care and green. So these are the most important things I think designers and design engineers can contribute, because everything we do shows our care and will help the green transformation. So that is what I would like to share briefly, but I'm very happy to answer any questions from the audience and have a discussion with you. Thank you very much.
Few minutes. Are you? Hi, Caitlin.
Hello?
Yes, we can see you and hear you. Thank you.
Hi. So just a bit about me. I'm a research engineer, and so this topic was really interesting because we're always thinking about what materials we're using and what the impact is of them. And I think it is a really interesting question, and you can see from what Hyodong was saying that there are many great examples of people tackling this question and working solutions out to address the issues that are going on in the world at the minute. But as I was thinking about this project, aside from the actual technical aspects of the solutions, three things stood out to me, and are things that I think we should be doing as engineers to move our technological knowledge forward. So the first one was cross-collaboration. And I think this is really important because when we look to do projects, it's about understanding the problems, and sometimes we don't know the full detail of the problems. So getting the right people in to have the discussions with them, and being really proactive about getting the right people in so we can understand the problems and produce a solution that's going to be implemented. Because as many good ideas and good projects there are out there, there are a good number of them that don't get implemented in the end because the end user hasn't really been considered to the detail that it needs to be to implement the project. So yeah, I think being really proactive about finding the right people to bring into the projects that we're doing is really, really important. And that's to any project at any stage of anyone's career that they're looking at. The second one is effective marketing. So it's again kind of looking at the customer and bringing them their understanding, bringing the understanding to them so they can understand what you're trying to achieve with your product, what the outcome is going to be, and how they can play a role to effectively implement it. And I think that would really, there's an element of us as engineers being able to relay our ideas and persuading people. And I think there's a really interesting trend that's going on at the minute is to make sustainability trendy. And I think that's quite nice in a certain way because it allows people that don't really understand the science or don't really engage with STEM to be able to be sustainable and implement those kind of solutions. So yeah, effective marketing is the second thing. And I think on a professional level, the third thing is how we consider the reuse and reliability of the materials that we implement into solutions. So I suppose encouraging our own companies to put clear processes in to analyze the materials we're using, analyze the process we're using, and try and minimize our impact on the environment right from the outset. So if you assess what materials and processes you're using, a company can have a good understanding of where their impacts are being made, and then they have the opportunity to be able to implement solutions to that, offset emissions perhaps, or allow time and projects to look at finding other solutions. And I know this is really idealistic, but as engineers and individuals, we can really, if we push for that in our projects and try and encourage companies to be able to consider that and show that we are interested in considering that into projects, I think is really important. So yeah, they're my thoughts on the question. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I just muted myself. Thank you, Caitlin. That was very interesting. Thank you for the breakdown of those points. I thought your first point about interdisciplinary research was really interesting. It's something that we really consider at the robotics lab. So thank you for your point of view. I would like to pass across to Mara Makoni now, please.
Just, can you let me know where you can see me? So.
I can hear you, Mara, but I can't see you, unfortunately.
I'm trying to. Okay, is it on?
That's it. I can see you now. Thank you.
Just a bit. So no, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. On the panel. Just as I think I was asked, how do you pronounce your name? It's Mara Tafadzwa, but it's Mara Makoni. So that's it's as simple as that. Just to wear, so just to explain, I have two hats. My first hat as I'm a systems engineer by sort of formal training, formal education, as it were, and then I specialized also. I did a master's in engineering for sustainable development. So there's always been that passion for me for pursuing the world of sustainability, but I also in sort of today's capacity, if I must, represent the Association for Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers, so AFBE UK. The reason this is actually quite interesting, and I will try to wear both hats, so particularly my opinion is, obviously we've come out of COP26, and when I read this topic, part of me was like, okay, so as engineers, the ingenuity and ingenuity quite interesting for me because I also work for PA Consulting as a management consultant. So the essence of what we do is bringing ingenuity to life. But the reasons was very interesting to me is because one of the things that I thought coming out of 26 is, as an engineer, I think we're at that moment where a lot of the topics, a lot of the challenges, a lot of everything that was being discussed as this is where we need to get. So, the global powerhouses, the global leaders emerged to, come and talk about all these things that are essentially engineering. So, I walked out of this thinking, if there is one thing we need to do as engineers, it's effectively to be. The first word I thought was bold. We need to be bold. We need to own some of these policies. We need to be at the forefront of driving some of these policies. So when people say we need to eliminate coal, what does this mean from an engineering perspective? So I think one of the things that we're now being called to be as engineers is to be very, very much at the forefront of driving how some of these policies are formed, what targets are set, and be really, I've always thought of myself as an engineer and thinking, well, I was very technically minded. However, it's like, well, how do I also make myself a bit of a politician to understand how some of these policies and to be at the forefront of how these policies are being formed? So my first thing was be bold and be absolutely at the forefront of what is driving the sustainability agenda and how to own it and to be part of it, and suddenly inherit that sort of a political mindset to be able to be at the forefront of policies. And I'm waffling a bit there. The second part, we've got to be fair. And this is when I wear my diversity hat, where, when we look at society, we've got to understand, are we delivering things in a, when we make a lot of the sustainability goals, are we doing things in a way that it might be fair for everybody in Britain? Is it fair for everybody in France? Is everybody for parts of the world who might not have a decision at the table, who might not be in control of some of the solutions that we provide for society as well? So I think the second thing is, first being bold, and then the second being we've got to be fair. Never has it been a time that we really need to actually put diversity embedded even within how we think through solutions. So whether it's designing products, whether it's thinking through those policies, whether it's thinking through, setting those roadmaps as far as from an infrastructure perspective, how do we do it that we deliver a fair society? So we do know, for example, the more developed parts of the world are responsible for the most amount of emissions and all of that. But actually the bigger impacts of climate change are actually felt in a different part of the world. So how do we make it fair that whatever we set as an agenda, whatever we set as a roadmap, even from an engineering perspective, it's done in a way that it's fair and is considerate of wider society. Society is not just me sitting in London. Society is me looking at it from a global perspective, looking at it from thinking about those that we deliver solutions to who might not be at a seat at the table when we make a decision as to what needs to be a solution. So for me, it's, I'll keep it short. It's being bold. It's being very bold, and it's being very fair. And even finally, it's also just being very collaborative. So often we sit and somebody asks you, what do you do? And you're like, well, I'm an energy engineer, I'm a transport engineer, but a lot of the themes that are required to deliver this sustainable future require us to be cross-cutting. It requires, when I look at transport, I work in transport. When I look at transport, it's really around decarbonization. It's like, really understanding how energy comes into the core of what I do, understanding emissions and all of that stuff. So it's really being able to bring every engineering mindset to a table when you deliver those solutions, because we have to be cross-cutting. We have to look beyond our own sort of comfort areas. So if I'm transport, I've got to understand what energy is trying to achieve. I've got to understand what utilities are trying to achieve. I've got to understand what health and life care sciences are trying to achieve. So it's really looking at how we can be very collaborative in delivering any of our engineering solutions. So those are my three things: fair, bold, and collaborative. So that was me.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mara. That was very interesting. And so lastly, our last panel discussion is coming from Dr. Suzuki, and I can see you, Lara, so I would just like to pass across to you.
Can you hear me? Okay, hi everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today. So I'm head of data and AI at Google Cloud, and I work with NASA on building the interplanetary internet as well. My work also involves working with federated computations to increase the sustainability of artificial intelligence and also creating smart cities. So I'm a computer scientist by training and also an electrical engineer. So I said like smart cities, let's think about that. Why we need to think about cities for us to think about sustainability. Firstly is because 70% of the world's population are gonna come and live in cities, creating 2.5 billion people living in cities by 2050. So we're gonna have 2.5 new residents coming to cities. And that is gonna stretch cities to its full capacity. And we have to be very careful with the way that we accommodate those people. We also have the issue of buildings that we have to build them to accommodate people coming to cities. But 80% of energy consumption and energy waste around the world is created by by buildings. And for us to afford having people moving to cities, we're going to have to build 2,000 apartment buildings every single day, each one with capacity for 90 people. And most of them will have to be affordable because most of the people are going to come from rural areas. When we also think about sustainability, we have to think about congestion. 100 billion pounds, that is the cost of congestion. We have 1 billion cars on the streets today, and in the next 2 years, we're going to have 2 billion cars. And humans, if you're a driver, you spend on average 4 to 6 months of your life trying to find a parking space. And 96% of the time, cars they are unused, they're not used to its full capacity. And 81% of the time, we only have a driver inside of the car. We don't have like other people. And while we want to create autonomous vehicles, like the idea of autonomous vehicles is for us also to help with sustainability, but also to bring back to people the right to the city. We have 65 million people on wheelchairs and 285 million people who are visually impaired, that they need access to safe and secure transportation systems. And another thing that is quite urgent in cities is the pollution that is cost us 100 billion pounds a year. So 92% of the world's population is at a high risk, is exposed to high risk of pollution. So that is like over 7 billion people. And we have 3 million deaths every single year associated with air pollution. Air pollution is not only bad for our lungs, it is also very bad for our cognitive ability. So a study done in Israel a few years ago demonstrated that kids who were exposed at high pollution levels, they performed very worse on exams, and that hindered their ability to get into good universities. And inefficiency in city infrastructure is what causes us the most of the problems that we see today. We also have a problem with waste. We consume 1 million bottles of plastic per minute, and less than half of that gets recycled. And we have all that waste going to the sea, damaging sea life. And if you are someone who likes eating your sushi or eating fish, in average, you consume 11,000 pieces of plastic every single year by eating fish. And we also have, because of the growth in population and the unfair in different countries, we have 70% of the world's population lacking safe surgical care. And that is creating a huge problems for cities in where we have to identify how to build a more circular economy. So we have to use assets to its full potential. How will we build things that are ethical and very well governed and cheap for cities to maintain, and to create actionable insights and build a system of systems approach. By that, I mean, transport depends upon energy, energy depends upon water. So we have to make sure our systems are integrated. And that is where technology comes into place. Data, disruptive technology, and social innovation, they come into place. And we can create predictive maintenance. We can create smart buildings for us to manage better energy, manage how people commute, and also ensure mobility of people, good transportation systems. And in my career, I have learned that the most difficult problems and the greatest opportunities in engineering, they are not technical, they are human. You're going to use what you learned at your university to create the engineering solutions that will change the world. And like the generation before us, you will also solve many problems that engineering and technology brings. You're going to create new jobs, give machines and the built environment the powers to think. Michelangelo, centuries ago, asked architecture, why don't you talk to me? And today we can have architecture talking to us. We can embed sensors and have the architecture sending us information about what is sensing in the environment. So you are also going to discover cures for illnesses and save our nature. So as you can see, engineering is all about human survival. And the best way to solve those problems is to have people in the room with different voices and different views. I urge you to be activists for that. In the end, what matters is not what you build, it is the teams that you build and the positive impact you bring to the lives of people who make use of what you create. And one of the things I would like you guys to always remember is that as an engineer, we are doctors for the world. And that is the message that I would like to give to you guys today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. That was great. That was very interesting. I like the phrase "doctors for the world." That's a good sentence. I will take that away with me today. So now I have been looking at some of the questions in the chat, and I believe there's a question for Professor Dong, and it's from Yasmin. And Yasmin asks, would it be possible to take the project ideas that have been designed by undergraduates and to improve them further and possibly implement them?
Okay, actually, the second example I showed, the washing machine using recycled shower water, is already in this stage. The students are currently working with a central research laboratory, so they are funded to develop it into the next stage. The first project is in collaboration with an architectural consultancy, so it's already a collaboration. There's a potential to implement it in the real world. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Dong. So the next question comes from Oana. I hope I've said your name correctly. And this question is for Mara. And Oana asks, I agree that it is our responsibility as engineers to understand policies and the impact of our actions. How would you recommend starting to get involved in the policy-making process itself?
Become a politician. I suppose, I mean, it's a brilliant question, because I suppose that also challenges the point that I made earlier. Like, we need to be bold, we need to be owning some of these the direction in which these policies are set and the targets that we set for ourselves. I think if you look at each, I mean, I was just reflecting on COP26 and really asking yourself, but what does that mean? Who even taking, being almost owning even your responsibility as an engineer goes beyond, I'm sitting at my desk and I'm designing this, where else can I be involved in? What interest groups, what lobbying forums, and what other things and the wider society do I become involved in? Because that essentially says, well, let me bring my voice to table and at certain seats where these decisions are being made, where certain ideas are coming together. And I always say it's easy for somebody like me because I'm female. So, as a female, there's a responsibility for you to go out there and advocate for being a female. So it's very, I always say, if sometimes if you're a white male, it's very easy in a world of engineering to just go to bed and think life finishes at 5 p.m. As a female, I have to think about what does it, I have to go to women in transport. I have to go to understand women in engineering, where I've got to do being a person from a minority ethnic group, where do I go and find? So I constantly challenge myself. Where else are decisions about the things that matter to me, about my profession? Where are these decisions being made? Where are some of these people? And it doesn't have to be I sit in parliament, shouting and being an activist. By all means, do that if you can. But it's also sometimes just finding some of these, asking yourself, where else are people like me who want to be part of these conversations actually sitting and having that cup of tea and coming together? Because what you then learn from that is what you embed your 9 to 5 essentially when you come back to work.
Thank you, Mara. That was a really good explanation. So if you have any questions you would like to ask, just to remind you, there's people asking if you can ask questions. Just please pop them into general chat, and I will pass them on to our panel for you. So just to go back to some of the points that you made, Lara, they were quite interesting to myself. So you mentioned system of system engineerings and using sensors. Being a roboticist, I know sensors are used a lot in things like, you know, marine life and oceans and building, you know, for asset management and to look after the oceans and sea life, etc. I noticed, so you are the head of data and AI practice at Google Cloud. Do you have any further comments that you would like to add with regards to sensing and sustainability with a sort of AI data-driven approach?
Yeah, one of the things that we have to bear in mind is that we're going to have data coming at different velocity with different formats and standards for you to integrate. So our job, for instance, as computer scientists or engineers, is to make sure that we bring that data to life, that we can integrate that also while maintaining the privacy that users they need. Because most of the time when we build systems, for instance, for mobility, that we collect data from phones, we have to make sure that we design a privacy-aware system in which we do not collect personal information about individuals. And that is one of the things that we have to make sure that we do in every single design that we build, is build that with ethics in mind. And the best way that we can do this, especially with artificial intelligence, that we don't have regulation for this, is for us to have diverse teams. Because when you have diverse teams, you kind of self-regulate yourselves, because you have people from different backgrounds, from different walk of life, from different perspective. And then you can ensure that you can cover every single aspect of your design process using artificial intelligence. Because in AI, if you do not design this correctly, because in artificial intelligence, you do not tell the system, if this, then do that. It's actually a function that receives your data and will take some shape that system. And so the data drives the behavior of the system. And as you collect information, you have to build the technology that will ensure that if you have a changing distribution of data, if the shape of the data changes, you have to capture that into your system. And artificial intelligence systems help you to do that. But you have to build that in mind, with the ethics in mind, with explainability in mind, because then what you can do is, if you have an outlier, if you see that, for instance, you are not giving people in wheelchair, for instance, good access or good mobility, then you can explain that and identify the data that is telling you what is happening with that particular section of the population. So AI cannot become a commodity just exploited by a small proportion of the population. It has to work for all of us. And there are many different frameworks available to help us to support in that. And what I always tell people is that when you want to work with AI, you have to come with the ethics like mindset, because that is what is going to help us to build the best and most beautiful systems ever.
Thank you, Lara. That was an excellent answer. Thank you. So interesting. So there's I'm conscious of time, and there's two short questions I would like to open to the whole panel and for anyone who would like to address it. So the first question comes from Anastasia, and she asks, do you ever experience imposter syndrome? And I can quickly answer that for myself. Yes, very much so. But I would like to open that question to the whole panel and to anyone who would like to give an answer, please, to Anastasia. Thank you.
Well,
Can I jump in there? How much? I had a very interesting conversation with my line manager yesterday, and it was around I really feel crap on this project, and project I was working on that is just not going well, I don't think. But I just wanted to say, if you know, just before I forget this line of thought, that the most important thing I've ever been taught is, listen, if you get onto a job and you're wondering why somebody put you there, it's not your problem. You know, there's somebody in recruitment, somebody who interviewed you, ask them why they make, if you're that bad, why is a recruitment process that's there? Let somebody. So don't own decisions that are not your own. The fact that you've ended up in a job, you either trust recruitment process, but you don't blame yourself for it. So even if you end up on a course at school and you think, oh my God, I don't know if I'm actually an engineer, and I don't know if you ask yourself, I wasn't tasked with making that decision to bring me through. Somebody else did. So if they did a bad job, that's on them. So you get on and you do. But I know it oversimplifies it, but it's this thing that I'm just like, sometimes at work, you do have that moment where you think, but remember to contextualize everything. It's not imposter syndrome. And sometimes it's really admitting, because we do work in high pressured environments where you end up in a course that's difficult to get onto, you end up on a job that's difficult to get onto, and you think that you need to turn up on day one as a star. Give yourself whatever grace you need sometimes to step back and accept you need to learn, and accept that sometimes on a roll, you won't always be a superstar. I am the eldest child in the family, and I was just always laden with that. You've got to be the best. You're the smartest here. You've got to make it work. But always give yourself that grace, and don't own responsibility for sometimes just being in that role, because somebody has trusted, an organization, an establishment has trusted somebody to find the best. And if they found you, that's on them. So don't own that responsibility, feeling like, why am I here? How did I? Oh my God, I'm crap. You are good. Somebody made that decision. But also give yourself the grace to step away from not thinking about you're bad at something, but more so that perhaps just being in a new environment can sometimes be unsettling. Being in new circumstances, being around new people sometimes can be unsettling. Give yourself enough grace to just learn, or give enough time to blend, and it will come together.
Thank you, Mara. I'm going to have to unfortunately move on. The questions are coming in now quite quickly. Thank you, Mara. That was very interesting. I also heard from a leadership course that someone said if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, it's because you're in an environment that is pushing you to the sort of top of your limits of your abilities and capabilities, which is a good place to be, because sometimes when we make ourselves the most uncomfortable, that's where we do the most growing. So you can actually use it to your advantage. So the next question is from Alexandra, who asks, how do you believe that sustainability can help solve energy poverty? That's quite a big question. Could I please pass that across to, anyone in particular that has a thought on that? It's quite a big question.
I have one example.
Thank you, Caitlin.
So an example that's kind of trying to address that is that in South Wales, they have created assisted living accommodation, and they have designed them to be off-grid. So I think they've only got 5 to 10 houses so far, but they're prototypes. They've got electric vehicle plug-ins with solar cells on the top, and the idea is to be able to put people in that maybe can't work or something like that, and that would alleviate them having to pay for bills by having off-grid houses in terms of electricity.
Thank you, Caitlin. And the very last question, which I'm going to take and then pass across to Elizabeth, please, is from Janet. And because it's Wes, I think this is quite a fitting question. It's for all panelists, and she asks, engineering has long been known to be financially driven. Cost is a big factor in the decisions made. How do we advocate for other aspects like collaboration, fairness, sustainability effectively, especially being women? And if you could keep the answer to about 1 minute, please, that would be perfect.
Okay, I'll just comment in the latest Engineering Council's guidance. Actually, this EDI, inclusion, diversity and equity, is already part of the engineering training. So I think that would help.
Thank you, Professor Dong. And believe it or not, that is us at the end of our panel discussion. I would like to thank all our panelists That's been very interesting, and I've also learned some points myself. And so I will pass across to Elizabeth, who can end our session for us. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a fascinating panel from some brilliant women, all of whom I believe have won the top 50 women in engineering heroes. And Mara Tefadzwa was one of the judges for that award. So thank you very much for your insights. The session is now coming to an end, and we have a half-an-hour break before we're back here with life lessons from engineering from Amelia Lewis, a performance engineer from McLaren Racing. But in the break, you will be returned to reception, and you will be able to see across the top, as we previously explained, the exhibition booths, the lounges, and the rooms. So you'll see when they're open. Do pop in, say hello to our sponsors, and have some networking conversations. And we'll see you back here in just about half an hour.